Hi, I'm Paul Loomis, and this is a short video about finding primes on your fingers. I am a math professor at Bloomsburg University. I've got glasses and a beard. That's how you can tell I'm a math professor. No glasses here, but beard, right? So I'm a math professor, but long before I was a math professor, I was a kid who loved numbers. I always enjoyed factoring numbers, or when we were on a long car trip, I'd look for exit numbers or license plates, and I'd look at those numbers and I'd ask, oh, are those numbers, can I factor them into smaller numbers, or are those prime numbers? So it may be fun for some people to figure out where the prime numbers are. So there's a quick way to do this. And I said on your fingers, and I'm using paper just for a moment, but you'll see fingers in a moment here. So first of all, a prime number is a whole number bigger than 1 that is not divisible by any smaller whole number. Remember, and we're going to exclude 1 here because everything is divisible by 1. So being divisible by 1 is not in any way special. So 1, we're just going to hold out of the mix. And since there's nothing smaller than 2, I'm going to circle it. Now, remember, any number that's not prime, that's bigger than 1, is composite. And so any multiple of 2 is going to be composite. That would be 2, that would be 4 and 6 and 8 and 10 and 12 and 14. There's a really easy way to knock all these off. Notice that all those guys are going to just disappear. So, wow, I missed it. All right. Right, so suddenly I've knocked out all the multiples of 2. And this guy is the next one. This 3, doesn't have any numbers smaller than him that go into him. And so 3 must be a prime. And so now I'm going to knock off all the multiples of 3. If you think about it, well, this is going to be 3, 6, we've already crossed out. 9, so I'll cross out 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Notice that half of these have already been crossed out. And so I'm just going to count by 6s from here: 27, 33, 39, 45, 51, 57. Let's see, 63. This is good for your brain, counting by 6s like this, starting not at 0. Let's see, 75, 81, 87, and 93 and 99. So we've crossed out all the multiples of 3. Right, which means that 5 must be a prime because it doesn't have any smaller factors. Crossing out the multiples of 5 is easy. Those numbers always look like they end with 5. Or they end with 0, but we've already crossed out all those. Okay, and so now I have 7 here. It has to be a prime because nothing smaller than it made it cross out. And so now I'm going to go and cross out the multiples of 7. There aren't many of these left, right? Most of the time, I'm going to take 7 times some number. And these numbers, I could just count by 7s. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Remember, 35 was here. 42, 49. Ooh, there it is. So there's the one that we cross out. 56, 63, 70, 77. That gets crossed out. 84, 91. 91 gets crossed out. And that's all of them up to 100. So now it's time for another really cool fact about numbers. If you think about any number smaller than 100, 100 is 10 times 10. And so if I had a number smaller than 100 and I was going to try to break it up into something times something, I'm going to claim that one of those somethings has to be smaller than 10. So think about it this way. If you had 10 times 10, that would be 100. If you had anything bigger than 10 times anything else bigger than 10, that number's got to be bigger than 100. Okay, so if you got a number smaller than 100, like 99 or anything like that, it actually has to be divisible by a number smaller than 10, or it's prime. Okay, so here's another fact about numbers. Remember that any number that's not prime is divisible by a prime. So any number smaller than 100 that's not prime has to be divisible by a prime. It actually has to be divisible by a prime smaller than 10. And there are only 4 of those guys. What that means is everything left here is actually prime. So I've got 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, and so on like that. So all of those numbers are prime. I'm not even going to circle them because there's so many of them. Okay, what I really, well, I'm going to circle these guys because these are the ones that are I'm going to use for the rest of this video. Okay, so here's another cool fact about numbers. If I take a number and I add 30 onto it, so first of all, I'm going to write down this important list of numbers. I'll tell you about this list in a moment. Well, no, I'll tell you about it right now. These are the numbers that I just put on my fingers here. Elliott Doerschler did this for me yesterday, and they looked even better yesterday. But right, if I just live my life like I normally do, evidently it's like hard on your fingernails. So these looked perfect yesterday, and they still look pretty good today. So I'm going to talk about primes bigger than 30 now. So 30 plus something. So if you have a number in between 30 and let's say 60, if that number is divisible by 2, then subtracting 30 off of it won't change that. It'll still be divisible by 2, right? If I have 34 and I subtract off 30, that's 4. It's still divisible by 2. If I have 33, I subtract off 30. Those numbers are both divisible by 3. If I take 35 and subtract off 30, those numbers are both divisible by 5. So these numbers were all the numbers in between 1 and 30 that were not divisible by 2 or 3 or 5. There's only 8 of them. It's kind of nice that I've got 8 fingers, not counting thumbs here. So what that tells me is if I'm looking for all the primes in between 30 and 60, they're going to have to come from this set right here. In other words, 30 plus these 8 numbers. What I've already done is knocked out all the multiples of 2 or the multiples of 3 or the multiples of 5. Actually, the only thing I have left to knock out are the multiples of 7. So this is really stuff that we already did on the paper a moment ago, but I want to do it with the fingers. So what do I know? 35 is a multiple of 7. That would be like a little 5 on my finger. 42 is a multiple of 7. That would be like a 12. 49 is a multiple of 7. That's the 19, right? So because 19 plus 30 is 49. Okay, so what's left here? Well, these are all the primes in between 30 and 60. So, right, 31, 37, 41, 43, 47. Ooh, I can't lift that guy up. 53 and 59. Okay, and so I'm just going to keep going here. So I'm going to say 60 plus, and we're going to go all the way up to 90. 60 plus, these 8 guys are the potential primes in between 60 and 90. Again, I have to think about what I have to knock out. I've already knocked out multiples of 2 or 3 or 5. I have to think about the 7s. So we'll count by 7s again. And I'll say 7 times 9 was 63. That's not here because that would be a 3. 70. 77 is actually this guy here, right? 60 plus 17. So he's gone. 84 is the next one. 91 is the next one. We'll remember that. Remember, because these numbers are smaller than 100, there's actually nothing else that I have to check. So here they are: 61, 67, 71, 73, 79, 83, and 89. And I'm going to keep doing this a little bit longer just to show you that it doesn't get that much harder. So between 90 and 120, here we are. Remember how I said between up to 100, you only had to check up to 7. That's actually true all the way up to 120. That's because 11 squared, 11 is the next prime after 7. 11 squared is 121. Anything smaller than 121 has a factor smaller than 11, unless it's prime. So what are the primes less than 11? Well, I still just have to check 7. So here we go. Remember 91, that was right here, it's gone. If I keep counting by 7s, 98 and 105 and 112 and 119. 119 is that guy over there. And so this is what we're left with, right? 97, 101, 103, 107, 109, 113. The hardest part is trying to lift up my ring finger here. Okay, right, so there's everything between 90 and 120. Now that I get to 120, I have to start thinking about the 11s here. So I have to still remember the sevens. Let's do the sevens first, right? Sevens, I had 119, so I'm going to keep counting and say 126, 133, that's this guy, gone. 140, 147, that's okay, that's 27 plus, okay. If I take out the 11s, remember 121? Yeah, it's probably good to know that that's 11 squared. So that's gone. And let's just keep adding 11s. 121, 132, 143. There's this guy, the 23, right? So that's gone. And what I'm left with is the primes in between 120 and 150. So 127, 131. I'm going to keep counting by sevens. Remember sevens? Let's see, 140, 147, 154, 161. That's an 11 right here, right? 150 plus 11, 161, 168, 175, 182, nothing new. Okay, remember the 11s. I was at 143, 154, 165, 176. None of those numbers disappear here. And so you ask, is that all the primes between 150 and 180? Well, we hit a new number we had to worry about, and that was 12 squared was 144. Remember, we don't have to worry about 12 at all, because if it's divisible by 12, it's also divisible by 2, and we've already knocked it out. But we do have to remember 13. 13 squared is 169. That's this finger right here, and it's gone. So here we are between 150 and 180, 151, 157, 163, 167, 173, 179. All right, last one. How about we do 180 up to 210? Okay, the hard part might be remembering where we were. So let's do the sevens first. And I'm going to work down, because remember that 210, I know that 21 is a multiple of 7, and so 210 is a multiple of 7 as well. So let's work down from 210. If I take off 7, I'm at 203. That was that guy right there. Another 7 and it's 196. Another 7 and it's 189. Another 7 and it's 182. And I haven't knocked out any guys. Okay. 11s. Again, it's maybe easier to work down. You just have to find a multiple here. So 220, that's obviously a multiple of 11. If I subtract off that, I get 209, which is this guy right here. Okay, keep subtracting off 11s. 198, obviously that's not new. 187, oh, hey, look, that's this guy right here. So the 11s knock out that guy. The 13s, remember, they knocked out 169. And so if I add on 13, I get 182, and another 13 is 195, another 13 is 208. The next prime that I have to worry about would be 17. 17 squared is 289, so I don't have to worry about 17 at all yet. So here they are, the numbers in between 181 and 210 that are, sorry, 180 and 210 that are prime. 181, 191, 193, 197, 199, right? Notice these four guys between 190 and 200, all four of the possibilities are prime. It's kind of cool when that happens. Okay, I have to say, you don't need these numbers on your fingers to do this. I've been doing this just mentally for years. Sometimes I use it to fall asleep. In my head, these are ingrained as 1, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, right? I painted them like this as a visual aid, and also because I think they're really cool. So happy factoring.